Less than 24 hours before our trip, I was cleaning the house when I suddenly got a feeling that I should go check on my passport. I pulled out my passport and discovered the awful truth. I was that person who plans a trip and then realizes their passport expired. Last year. We did some asking around and decided to keep our plans. I was nervous about going to Mexico. I was nervous about not having a valid passport, but the decision was made. We were going. We parked at International Parking, which is the closest lot to the Mexico border. The $8 sign is a lie. The cost is $18 for 0 to 8 hours and another $18 for anything over that. The plan was to cross the border at San Ysidro on foot. We would only have to go about 200 feet inside Tijuana on our own to meet our driver at 9:30 a.m. There was a little bit of a line, so it's a really good thing we had time, and there was no problems getting through customs. I handed them my expired passport and I was in. We found the pharmacy where we were supposed to meet. I knew that everything was going to be okay as soon as I saw those flowers. Valle De Guadalupe is about 1.5 hours from the Tijuana border, just outside of Ensenada in the northern part of Baja California. Last year, the northern part of Baja was upgraded from a level 2 exercise increased caution to level 3 on the State Department travel advisory. Level 3 is to reconsider travel and maybe don't go, but we wanted to. I have always lived within an hour of the Mexico border. We did family vacations to Rosarito and Ensenada. In college, I went to TJ to party almost every week, just me and one other friend sometimes. Late at night, on our own, and I know the world has changed since then, but even so, that probably was not safe, and yet back then, I thought nothing of it. Every week, there is another headline about someone losing their life, disappearing, or meeting some other terrible fate in Mexico. I didn't used to worry about these things, but these days I'm genuinely afraid of something terrible happening to me. But I also don't want my fears to stop me from living my life. This building immediately caught my eye when we passed it. It is so creepy and cool looking. I was so curious about what the heck this was. This is Casa del Diablo in Rosarito. It's actually a home built in 2012 by a man named Tony Wells, based in California. He said he wanted to do something different. The property is 6 stories high. Inside, it is filled with Gothic art and vintage furniture and decor. Because of all the crowds this place attracts, I think he's in the process of turning it into a museum. So I think that might be a cool place to check out sometime. I felt very safe being with a driver from Mexico who speaks the language, knows the ropes, and knows exactly where we were going. Having a driver is really the way to go, and it seems like most people that we encountered at the wineries were doing the same. Even if you have a designated driver who is not going to drink, I'd still say hire a driver. It's better not to have to worry about driving in Mexico at all, and it really allows you to enjoy your time there. What winery is this? We have no idea where we are. We made it to Relieve Winery around 11 a.m. When we rolled up, we were a little confused. In the US, all the wineries that we've ever been to, you have to physically go to the bar for all of your tastings. In Mexico, they come to you. The tastings here were between $16 and $25. La Ruta del Vino, or the wine route, is the name given to the wineries and restaurants in this area. And there are over 120 wineries in Valle de Guadalupe, and 90% of the wine produced in Mexico comes from there. Just to give you a little comparison, there are about 50 wineries in Temecula wine country and 400 in Napa.
This wine is very fresh, very light. For me, it's perfect for summer.
This particular winery does have lodging. You can stay there for about $250 per night. The view of the vineyard was incredible. They had a really good playlist going. This Tempranillo was our favorite. We bought 2 bottles at $36 each. I could not have asked for a more beautiful day. I was just so happy to be there and that everything was working out. Winery number 2 was down another long bumpy road and behind a gate. By this time, I was already feeling the buzz from the first tasting.
Very good. Keep walking.
El perro.
I was really impressed by how pristine and modern and beautiful these wineries are. Casa Magoni had a slightly different vibe with a live band. And the first winery had food, but this one didn't, so we had to settle for charcuterie boards. This one offered the most variety of tasting options. I was able to get a 6-wine tasting for 400 pesos or $22 US, which is a lot of tastings for a low price. Most of the other tastings were 3 to 4. So good. So what do you think of that wine?
It's good. Not bad. My type of red wine. Not too bitter.
We got to taste some bolder wines here.
Guess we better get busy. This one I have to finish for my. This one I have to. This one I have to finish for my last tasting, and this one's for my birthday. But they changed the time to 3 for our next place, so now we can relax a little bit. We don't have to rush as much. Cheers! Where are these dogs coming from? Oh my god.
¡Feliz cumpleaños! ¡Felicidades!
This is our last winery. Should I put my shirt on?
Just down the street was Lechuza, which we chose on recommendation from a friend.
Booty, 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 booty.
This was the only place we had a reservation for. If you have a group of at least 8 and up to 75, you can make a reservation for your group to dine here, right between the vines or in the barrel room. Here we had 5 wines for $25.
Okay, so this is our 3rd wine. We had 2 Chardonnays, and this is an Italian wine. And Mexican people do not drink a lot of wine. Most of their wines are very light, which is perfect for me.
Cheers.
I really like their Sauvignon Blanc, but the one we took home is the Amantes, the Italian wine. There's a very long history of winemaking in Mexico, but the marketing of Valle De Guadalupe as a premier wine destination didn't really start until the 1990s. Every August, there's a grape harvest festival in Ensenada, and in October in Valle De Guadalupe is the Valle Food and Wine Fest. We left Lechuza around 4:30 p.m. Our driver asked us if we wanted to do a 4th winery. We've done a 4 winery tour and it's a lot, so we were good with 3, plus we were hungry. It was time to head to dinner. It was pretty great having a driver all to ourselves because we didn't have to consider anybody else when we came and went. Our driver was so good. She had an awesome playlist for us in her car, and she always came to find us wherever we were to take pictures and offered us water. The tour company was Baja Rides and Tours. We booked it through Viator, but you can also book them directly. They were awesome from the get-go. They reached out the week of with questions about our plans and to give us all the information we needed. We were able to do all of this through WhatsApp to avoid any international charges. They made me feel very comfortable and taken care of, and that was even before we left. All we had to do was show up. Everything else was handled for us. We could have created our own itinerary, but you don't have to. We only had 1 winery request and we let them take care of everything else. The cost was $250 for transportation only, and we were responsible for all other food and drink expenses.
Las mujeres de España, Argentinas y Dominicanas, de Perú y Guatemala, Venezuela, Cuba y Ecuador, de Chile y Paraguayas, Uruguayas y Colombianas.
We made it to Villa Ortega's in Puerto Nuevo at around 4:45. The view is outstanding. This is an ideal location to eat dinner and watch the sunset. I was definitely hungry, but at the same time my appetite was slightly off because that's what happens to me when I drink a lot of wine. My quesadilla was really good. I don't eat seafood, but he went for the fresh lobster because that's what you're supposed to do in Puerto Nuevo. He had to go to the ATM for more money because this place is cash only.
Hi.
We stuck around for an extra 10 minutes after we finished eating to watch the sunset. I can't think of a better way to have ended such a perfectly magical, special, wonderful day.
Italia, Francia, Brasil y Portugal son puro amor. Mujeres latinas son lo mejor.
Just before sunset. It's been raining so much all year long, but we got lucky with this beautiful weather. Mexico has a really bad rap. The headlines don't lie. Bad things happen down there. It might seem strange to go to a place that you know is so corrupted by drug cartels, and I definitely had reservations, so I'm glad that we did it the safest way possible. All the waiters and waitresses and servers that we encountered are hardworking people just trying to pay their bills and have a good life like the rest of us. I'm glad that we went and contributed in some way to the tourist economy that they depend on. If you do this, and I think that you should, know that it is going to be an extremely long day. We met up at 9:30 a.m. We were at Wineries from 11 to 4:30. We were eating dinner around 5:30 p.m. and we didn't make it back to the border until 8:30 p.m. So this brings us to the worst part of the trip, actually the only bad part of the trip, and that was border crossing. Border crossing is basically a nightmare. We were cold, tired, and we had to stand in line for 2 hours. I highly recommend Sentry or Global Entry because otherwise you will be standing in line for a very long time. Nobody said a word about my passport being expired and everything worked out, but I prefer not to ever go back under those circumstances.
Oh my God. That was awful.
But everything else was great. The only thing I would have done differently is eat at the first winery. We survived, but we could have done with a little more food during the day. The next time we go back, we'll also have global entry and I'll have a valid passport. While we were waiting in line, we did hear of someone crossing the border with a birth certificate and driver's license. Apparently, Mexico is willing to make exceptions, but I prefer to follow the rules. My renewal application is in the mail. I'll be ready.